we're out hiking, and we were like, well, what's the opposite of love? And at first, you know, you want to say hate, but then you're like, well, when there's hate, it means because you really genuinely, deeply,
Right.
most of the time, you deeply care. There's something there. But
Right.
really what we came to is that ignorance truly is the opposite of love. You know,
Right.
it's being ignorant to what's going on. And I think for me, like, more now than ever, like, I have taken the time to, first and foremost, truly acknowledge the truth of what's been going on to our Black community for so
Right.
long, and really do more work to not just make a post and do a hashtag, but like really take the time to listen and do the research and learn what has been going on for far too long to this community, to our community. And
Right.
I really feel like just starting to learn and listen and just educate myself. So I want to start there, and you know, really just, I just want to ask you, like, for those out there that still haven't processed, like they have never felt this before. You know, they have never
Right.
gone through racism. They haven't personally felt it. They're ignorant to it. What would be your
Right.
message to them right now?
That these people are oppressed. It's oppression. And I think people think oppression is just a word that African American people use or women use to give them some level of diversity and inclusion. They think it's just a blanket statement, but oppression means that I have not been able to do what you do just based on the color of my skin or the sex I was born. That privilege is something that most people don't even realize that they have. I was born in poverty. I know what that feels and looks like, but I have not been in poverty for quite some time. And there are things at times I have to pause and say, wait, what? Like when someone says something to me, because that's not my experience anymore. And not that I'm disconnected, because we are so close to it every single day, but I choose to go towards love and light. And because that's the way that I look at the world, I try to find solutions instead of just the problems. But most people don't have people in their life to tell them that you've got to redirect this energy that you're having in the same way that you want to keep people down if you are of the majority. If you want to do that, then why? Why would you want that to happen? Because you could have been born another race. People can't help how they come into this world. So
Yeah.
Oppression is something, and privilege is something that I don't think that people truly understand. For Caucasians, it's privilege. For African Americans, it's oppression. Those are two polar opposite places to be. And so where are we in the middle? Because if you're on one end of the spectrum or the other, those are still very far. So even the middle,
Yeah.
is that right? I don't know.
Right.
And I think that's a conversation. It's a deeper conversation that has to be had, because at the end of the day, we live in America. We're in a capitalistic society, and no one wants to give up their stuff. And they think if they give someone else an opportunity, they're going to be giving away their stuff. And you and I both know, we speak about this on our platform. We operate from a place of abundance.
Yes.
Everyone doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. Nobody, I mean, like, this is a hard job. They'll get into it and they're going to be out of it real quick. They're going to realize, oh yeah, I don't want to do that much work. So what you're giving up is so minute in terms of being able to level the playing field, because if you do well and I do well, that means that I can go get 10 other people to do well. That means that we're going to have a society that does better. But I think people are so afraid to lose what they have. They think by offering anything they're going to lose something. And that's the challenge that I think we face with most of this, is that it's mostly about money. Not really anything else. It's mostly about money. When you sit down across the table with someone and they could have had all of these thoughts about Black women or Black men or gay people, you know, like, unless they have a relationship with those people and it's close to home, they have no idea what that walk is like. And then with me, you know, I travel a lot, you travel a lot. So when you're in a first class seat, you're where? Super duper close. And you guys are chatting for, you know, West Coast to East Coast. That's a 4-hour flight. You know everything about someone's life. And there's not been one time that I've not sat next to a white male on a flight. And by the time we got off the flight, it was like he was hugging me. Like, thank you for sharing. Like, yeah. I didn't know this is what my secretary was going through. I didn't know this is what my admin assistant or the person who's applied for a job over and over again, and they just didn't have the right tools to get it, but they had the smarts to get in there, but you didn't cultivate that. So if you don't spend the time and take the time to figure out where this is coming from, I mean, this is 40 years in the making. We're here again.
Yeah. You know, Maya, I'm similar to you, right? We're entrepreneurs in the sense, and I can't wait to kind of get into the side where we can talk about how this is going to change business going forward and
absolutely
learn from this and where can we be in going forward with solutions. But I do want to give you an opportunity, and honestly, it would just be an honor to hear a little bit more about your story and where in your life have you gone through being a Black woman and being oppressed, and what have you done in your own life to get to where you are now to help you to have that abundance mindset and to be able to create the wealth that you have and the influence that you have today? And what advice would you give someone who's going through that now?
Well, I think for me, you know, for people who don't know my story, my mother, I was born to a 15-year-old teenager. So, you know, can't do a whole lot with that. And my mom was in and out of prison and on drugs for all of my life, all of her life with me. She died at 29 of a drug overdose. So I had some decisions to make that day. And I tell this story a lot in my talks, is that my mom died that morning and we went to school that day. And it's so bizarre to people when I say that, because a pivotal moment in my life, one of the most life-defining things to happen to me, but it allowed me to operate from that day forward from a space of power and understanding that emotions and feelings have a place. But if you have a test, you got to go take it. Because I read the Bible, I believe in Jesus Christ. So I don't, you know, whatever anybody else believes in their religion, however they get through whatever they're going through, but it's in the Bible. Let the dead bury the dead. We have work to do here. And God had to be able to use me in a different way to be an example for my family as to what could happen if you actually use the gifts and talents that God gave you. I use my God-given talents. My God-given talent was I was outgoing. I was able to persuade people to do whatever I wanted them to do. They called it being bossy back then. I called it leadership skills. So for me, all of the things that I do in my adult life now, I thank my 10-year-old self, I thank my 13-year-old self, and I thank my grandmother and my uncle for not allowing me to use my mother's life and her circumstances to be what defined me in this world. So for me, it was learning from other people's mistakes. You don't have to bump your head 1,000 times to get it. And most people will use their challenges as an excuse. That was not an option for me and my family. It just wasn't. My uncle didn't allow it. He just didn't allow it. And mind you, he was a functioning, raging cokehead, but he didn't allow me to make excuses. And so because I saw drug addiction firsthand, I knew that I didn't want to do drugs. I didn't understand how people can be in and around drugs and they see the impact that drugs will have on their lives. How do you think this is going to be different for you? So I say, you know, all the time, I think God just made me different. And I thank him for it because I have cousins, aunts, uncles, and all of them are still in that same city, living that same life, telling that same story. And my experience with the story was completely different. We went to school that day, and then I had a game and I had to cheer 4 days later. And then I had competition, and then I had debate. Like I had things to do and I was busy. And so I didn't mourn the death of my mother until I was in college. Wow. Didn't even know that I was sad until one day I heard a song and I'm just in tears of emotion. I'm like, what is going on? And I realized it was a song that my mom used to love. And I heard it in the background. And that was the first time I grieved. And it was 4 years later. But I had to get to college. So I couldn't grieve in high school. I had to get to college. And so you can be sad here today, but this is not happening to me right now. She's dead now. So I couldn't drop out of school and say, I'm so sad about my mother. Like, I don't allow that type of behavior with anybody that's in my space. You don't get to decide that you want to be sad today about something that happened 10 years ago. We're going to go sit on a couch. We're going to process this information, and we're going to gain some tools to be able to get out here and move and push through it. But at the end of the day, you don't honor the people that have died by you are here today, and then you do nothing with your life. And so for me, and the sacrifices that my uncle made, that my grandmother made, and then also with my mother, we had a very interesting relationship. I didn't forgive her until I was an adult and she was dead. But I had to look at something one day and say, she was 15. But when they're your mother, they're an adult to you. So
Right.
I didn't see it that way. But do you know how much money I spent on therapy to come to that realization? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thank God. Most people don't have that. And for me, it was, I want to be able to be successful in my life, make enough money so that I can live the life that I dreamed of at 10. And the only thing I tell young people now is I wish I would have known to dream bigger, because most of the things that I want to accomplish, I accomplished by 26, 27 years old. I'm in my 40s.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, that's the biggest thing that I share with women specifically, because, you know, we don't only have racism as Black women, we have sexism. And I say all the time, people are more sexist than they are racist. Men. So if you think we have a problem with in the world, imagine our relationships and you're powerful and you're strong. I'm not going to be powerful and strong in every other part of my life, but I'm going to be with a man who tells me it's, you know, it's raining outside and the sun is out, and I'm not going to question it. You know, that becomes a challenge for women in relationships and women in business. So, you know, you can't be the smartest person in the room and be muted. You have to be able to articulate your thoughts, and you need to be able to persuade people, and it can't be emotional. Sometimes it's just facts and numbers, and that's what's worked for me in my life. I don't know how other people process their emotions, but for me, let's deal with it right now, or we're going to put it in a box for a minute. Let's get to work. Let's make some money, and let's let the professionals help you deal with it. And I think specifically in the Black community, we all have PTSD. Everyone needs to be in therapy. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that's just so powerful that you were at that age able to quickly learn that those circumstances didn't need to define your life. But also like acknowledging that at some point you did need to grieve and forgive.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love the fact that you are like, and get the help, you know, like I think more now than ever before, we're finally seeing that we're breaking that stigma. Like we still have the sexism and racism. It's like we're still fighting so hard, but I think we're waking up, and I feel more now than ever we're starting to wake up as a society.
And I think a lot of this, when we are able to step back from it when it's over, because nothing lasts forever, not even the best of things. Mental health is really the root of a lot of this. Like you don't understand what someone's breaking point is. And that's why this is such a fragile time. And people are like, well, why are they so angry right now? Well, they've been in the house for 90 days. So imagine not committing a crime. You're not accustomed to being locked up, but you are basically on house arrest. That's what we were in quarantine. We're on house arrest for 90 days. If you're in New York, oh my God, how many days has it been for them? And when you see these images come across because social media is their news now. Nobody's watching CNN or, you know, the Shade Room and BuzzFeed are the news.
And Revolt.
And Revolt, you know, but it's so fast. You know what I mean? It's like nobody's fact checking. They're just filming it with their camera and they're putting it out there. So there's no filter. And with no filter, you feel as though it's happening to you in that moment. And so when he put his knee on that man's neck and someone saw it in that moment, that day was the last day. And I think when the district attorney or the county attorney, when he said that there wasn't enough evidence to charge, he said it too quickly, he started the race riot. Because you need to take the time because we'd already seen it in Brunswick. And in Brunswick, the tape had been out for a while. They didn't arrest them because of the tape. They arrested them because we saw the tape. Saw the tape. Social media said, you're going to do something about this. The court of public opinion said, you're going to do something about this. And If they would have arrested him that day, that would have saved all of us tens of millions of dollars in lost jobs, because there's going to be lost jobs. There's going to be neighborhoods and communities that can't be rebuilt. And last night there's a parade and they're bringing them all in. I'm like, but for what? How many people had to sacrifice for this when you could have just done the right thing in the beginning? But doing right means that you have to take yourself out of it, and your privilege out of it, and your credentials out of it, your badge out of it, and just do the right thing. And most people behind closed doors, when nobody's watching, they're not going to do the right thing. They're not. They're going to protect who they feel needs to be protected. And that's why we see racism, oppression, job, class, everything. You see that because the person who's making the decision, they're going to look out for the person that's more likened to them, because they don't know you.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I feel that. Like, we need to get back to, like, I read a quote recently by Brene Brown that says, the system isn't broken, it was built this way. And that hit me, because after watching like the 13th Amendment on Netflix and like really starting to have these conversations, and I'm learning, I'm like, whoa, like my man Prince Donald, I'm friends with his wife, Dana Chanel. She's another really powerful leader in the Black community. He made a post about how Bank of America, for instance, is like issuing $1 billion for racial equality. But he's like,
we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that.
Oh, let's go. He's like, yeah, cool. But everyone's clapping when all the overdraft fees, they've already taken
it was 1.3 billion. Yeah, 1.3 billion in overdraft fees. Right. So you're going to give us money back that we didn't have in the first place. And where are you going to give it? You're going to give it to the NAACP? No shade against NAACP, but when everyone is calling for where's Target, where's Walmart, where their statements are, I'm like, well, where's the NAACP with the leadership? Because everyone in corporate, they're too lazy to do the research and find the grassroots organizations that really, really do the work out here. So they just write it to the NAACP. They write it to the NAACP. Well, the NAACP, that trickle down isn't there anymore. At least I don't see it, and I'm Black.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you can't just say, I'm going to pledge this money. I want to know how. And you need to have leaders and business people at the table about this, not politicians, because political people oftentimes don't know anything about business or the inner working of businesses. So when they write these guidelines and rules about things, they're actually writing stuff that can't be met, but they don't know. They don't know because they've never had a business. They've been either a career politician or they came from corporate that they got a bonus. So they don't understand when you're starting a business and you bootstrap it, you may not have the proper P&L statement because I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but now I've made $1 million in my business. So you mean to tell me that you can't give me 100,000 that you can see that I can pay back without a business plan written and vetted by a scientist and an economist now? No, it's silly. They need to go back to basic business. Basic business is this. Can we turn a profit? And in what amount of time can we turn a profit? So Bank of America is going to pledge money. I charge all of us to hold their feet to the fire and say, okay, then what are you going to do with it? Because the community reinvestment funds that have been out there since the predatory lending, they do that every year. I don't see anybody shaking the trees with that. Yeah. No. They cherry pick who they want to give money to, and there's still no impact made. If you want to change communities very, very quickly, all you have to do is go to education. We have a $1.6 trillion student loan debt problem. Okay, so for anybody that is African-American that you feel has been oppressed, or have them write a freaking essay. Right. I don't care how you do it. Just make an application process, and this is what it is. Wipe out their student loan debt. How about that? Then you're going to give me some borrowing power. Yes. Then you're going to give me some borrowing power. And don't tell me, well, why would they not have to pay their student loan debt? And, you know, their counterpart would. Well, their counterpart had two parents and have had two parents generationally for years and years and years and years and years when we weren't allowed to marry. So you wonder why we have so many broken homes. Well, we weren't allowed to marry, so you don't know where you came from. So it's going to take a lot longer than 40 years for us to catch up. Sorry. Yeah, it will.
100%. 100%. It's crazy how much is coming up and being rooted now. Like, Oh man, just so much. I mean, and then you got the mass incarceration issue,
Oh God.
and the fact that we've been all this whole time looking at how they've been using labor in China, when right now you got over 40% of the African American community here in America being incarcerated for life, 1 in 3 people, and then they're being used by these corporations to manufacture the goods.
Absolutely. So that's why we need to mind our business. This global pandemic, this, what our president call it? The Chinese virus. That's what he called it, the Chinese virus. Well, I think there's some truth that I thought this was from the beginning. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I watch every program ever because I know in any of it, there's a bit of truth, and you only need a bit of truth for you to prove where this stuff came from. And China was sick of us being in their business. You're not going to control our economy and our way of life, but you want to shine the light on China in how they do things, but you don't want to talk about, they don't have crime. They don't have a crime rate in the way that we do. So we have this mass incarceration, so that's hidden. That's hidden, so you don't have to talk about how you are able to charge this because that's your free labor, but you're paying 3 times that amount to incarcerate them, but you won't educate them. So that I have a huge problem with. Anybody that knows my story, they know, like, I come from a family of people who have been in and out of the system, in and out of prison. And for me, I was exhausted with it. I was like, what in the hell,
Yeah.
But at the root of it, I realized that once you get in the system, it's almost impossible for you to get out unless you have somebody with money, time, patience, and resources to be able to help you see that there's another way to do this.
Yeah.
Another way, and you have to have the resources to was 16. When he got out and came to live with me, I was 24 and a half. No ID, no, like nothing. How am I going to be able to get him a job? Well, you couldn't get a job unless you had a utility bill. How would he have a utility bill if he hasn't lived in a home? I had to go put him on my bank statement. I had to think like, okay, how can I do this? So I put him on my bank statement, added him to my account to be able to go get him a driver's license. But what 24-year-old can even think like that? I don't even know how I thought to do that. So most of these people are going to go back into that same community where they don't have a bank statement.
Yeah.
So there's some things that need to be changed systematically, but if we change them with education and prison reform, we will eliminate probably 60% of our issues in the Black community.
I know I mentioned this to you in the DM, and I want to ask you, it's a pretty powerful question, and thinking about what would, in your opinion, if you were to become president of the United States, Black women now became the president of the United States, what would you do to make the changes that are necessary right now to truly create equality and really change what's happening, not just in our culture, but with our economy?
I wouldn't take that job, first of all.
That's why you're
I
smart.
wouldn't take it.
Maya,
They couldn't give it to me. But if that were I have friends, one of my friends said to me, we were having drinks one day, and he was like, because when I'm passionate about something, I'm super passionate. And he's like, have you ever thought about politics? I said, oh God, honey, they don't want me in politics because I'm going to lay down the law and I'm going to tell everybody, even the things that they don't want to hear, even us, because there's some responsibility that we have as Black people that we got to clean some of this up too. But if a Black woman were elected president and ran for president, you know who I want in office? A Black businesswoman.
Yeah.
I would take a Black businesswoman.
Like Oprah?
No, well, somewhat like Oprah, different. Her influence is different. She's a journalist. She's a thinker. She is philanthropic. She has all the makings of someone who could really be president. I don't think she wants that job, but I know she knows how to be politically correct enough to toe the line. I know that people have their opinions about her, but at the end of the day, coming from where she came from, she didn't get there here by playing the short game. So I think we could all take a note out of her book, but I think as a Black woman, especially a Black woman who has experienced life at every level, those are the people that you need in office, not a career politician, because I deal with politicians all day, every day in my real estate business. Trying to get something done with people who are political, they can't make a decision quickly. They overthink everything. And unless it has 90 zeros in it, they can't figure out how this is going to make an impact. You make an impact one street at a time. One street at a time. We have an area in Atlanta called Grant Park, East Atlanta, and West End. Those areas 10 years ago you could get a house there for $20,000 when the market crashed. When the market crashed in 2008, they slashed, and people wouldn't buy them. Guess who bought them? White gays. One street at a time. Now you can't get a tear down in that neighborhood for less than $300,000. So you have to galvanize the troops, and someone's got to be ready to take that heat. And nobody wants to be on the front line. No one wants to be out there. They want all the benefits of it when it's all said and done, but nobody wants to live next to a crack den for 2 years. Well, if we all buy what's on the street, we don't have to live next to a crack den, and we can control our neighborhood. And I think for politicians, from the top down and bottom up, all of it needs to be changed. And we start with changing the Electoral College. If we did away with the Electoral College, then you would see who the people really wanted in office. Quit telling me, well, they won the popular vote, but they're not president. So there's something wrong with that system. You can't speak for me. You can't speak for me. And if 100 of us that voted, 80 of us voted for this person, but you at the Electoral College, you decided you want, then you're not speaking for me. So that vote shouldn't count. That's what needs to be dismantled immediately. If we do away with the Electoral College, we'll see a change in our political system, and you'll see more people running for office because they will actually believe in the system. Most people, young people, vote. Yeah, they're like, my vote doesn't count. My vote doesn't count. I'm like, well, actually, on a state and local level, it does. And that's where you see the most impact. The federal government gives us money for funding. It's sent to states, but for the most part, our money and the way that we move in a city is based on our tax base. That's our property taxes and our sales tax. That's how we survive. The federal government is not an open checkbook to states and municipalities. So states and municipalities on a local level, if you vote, you can make change very, very quickly. You can get the people out of office who are not looking out for your vested interests as a community. So a Black woman who wants to run for president, I don't want a career politician. I don't want a career politician. I want a person who has been in business, who can actually make decisions for people that affect their everyday lives. Because we as entrepreneurs, who do we pay before we pay ourselves? The government and our employees.
Yes.
They get paid before we get paid, right?
Yep.
So we make decisions from a level of compassion that most people do not, because you can see the GMs, you can see the Deltas. What are they? Oh, well, we can't, we're laying you off. We don't have the money, but their CEO still got a $50 million bonus, right? So you do have the money. You need someone who has come from an entrepreneurial space, really and truly, who has grown a business, because if you can grow a business, you can grow a country. Yeah. The United States is the #1 consumer of goods. The United States government buys more goods than anybody. So if you had someone in business, guess what they would do? Let's fact check these numbers a little bit. Who are you giving this to? Who are you giving this to? Because they would treat the Treasury like it's their money and not just some open bank that never runs out of money. Because that's not how it works. Our dollar is only as valuable as the confidence we have in the economy. And so you mean to tell me if a $2 trillion bill passed, but we're in a deficit, then, oh, we made some noise and you guys gave it to all your friends. You gave $10 million to this person, $50 million to this person. Okay, now we have another round of funding. Okay, now this next round of funding is a little bit more fact checking, a little bit more, more red tape, but not as much. For the first time in history, it took a global pandemic for Black business owners to get access to funding.
Wow. Ever
in the history of the United States, loaning money, the SBA loaning money, this is the most money they've ever given, not given because it has to be paid back, to Black business owners. But my white counterparts, their dad has a banker, Their uncle has a banker, their cousin has a banker. Someone at the community bank will just say, oh, they're good. They can do it. We don't have that. In our community banks that are there, they can't lend because they can't take that risk. So yeah, a Black woman as president, I only want one running that has been in business, not a politician, because politicians can't get things done. They want to play the long game to get reelected. And I need things done swiftly. And you can move the needle swiftly. If our president, regardless of what you think about him, if he's shown you anything, he does it swiftly. Swiftly. Because he is a business person.
Yeah.
I'm going to move this swiftly. You can't do it? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. What was the girl that Kim Kardashian got out of prison when he got her pardon? You know, it takes like 2-3 months, right, to get him out? What did he say? Today. Today. Today you let them out. Because that's the power that you have when you're in those offices.
Yes.
So use your power. Don't use your power. I'm not censored when I say anything because I'm not a politician. Yeah. You know how many unfollows I got this week because of my position on certain things? They're right. No, these are looters and thieves that are doing this. You're burning down a city who, I don't agree with it. I don't care if you agree with it. These are the facts. You are looting department stores, so you're buying into the very stereotype that they want to be seen so that there's no sympathy for you at all. You can't just have sympathy, but you need to have empathy for a people, if you're not connected to them at all, to feel compassion. Yeah. This pandemic, people had to be compassionate about people's lives. Why? Because it wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't like the housing crisis where they said, well, they shouldn't have leveraged. They shouldn't have did this. They shouldn't have did that. This was beyond our control, and everyone had to just sit down. Yeah. Yeah. So no, I don't want a politician. I want a person in business. I want them to move swift, and they can change laws as quickly as they want to every single time. And they can put them into practice quickly. You can put them into practice. If you want to change something, you change rules. These are the rules now. It's just like the tax code. It's changed quickly, right? How big is it? Changes every year. Yeah, it's changed quickly. They can do that everywhere. They do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Yeah. You talked about ownership and equity, and you have a business. You do a lot of real estate business. And I had a live stream last week with a buddy of mine, John Henry. I don't know if you know John.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I've seen him. Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I've seen him.
But he said something very similar, right? Like, if you want to make a change, again, right, it's more than just, of course, we need to acknowledge and shout out to everybody who is part of the movement that is leveraging their platform to be a voice and to share where your stand. But like E.T. said today, right, it's like a commitment. It's not about just an Instagram post. And what I love about John and yourself is, like, you guys are talking about real equity, like taking ownership again, going back to these same neighborhoods, rebuilding from the inside. It's what I was doing in Newark, New Jersey. So what advice would you have for the Black and brown community right now in taking the steps coming out of this to actually start creating more equity in real estate, and then also just even in business, like creating now financial freedom, starting to go and be more entrepreneurial? Do you have any advice there?
Right. So the biggest challenge that we have is in the African-American community is when it comes to ownership, you're coming from generations of people who haven't owned anything. They haven't owned anything. So you're taking advice from people who haven't owned anything. And you would be surprised that someone's mother, aunt, cousin, or uncle is the worst person when I, as an agent, am dealing with the client that, oh, my uncle said this, my cousin said this, all of these people. And I always ask, well, where do they live? What do they do? So you came to me because I'm an expert. I don't make money selling one house at a time. I make my money by having a downline of clients who constantly refer me to people year after year after year after year. Because once you close on your house, oftentimes you're going to buy another house within less than 7 years. So I don't want to have to go after new clients. This is just basic customer service and giving you the right information. But at the end of the day, if you don't own anything, you will not have any power. So you renting because you want to live in Buckhead or Brookhaven, you want to live in this area, but you'll never be able to own anything if you're paying $2,000, $3,000 in rent and you only make $70,000 a year. Where are you going to save? So your first home is not your dream home. this is where you're going to build equity. This will probably become your rental property, so that when you're 55, you'll have a home that's, if you're 25 when you buy one, at 55 you have a home that's paid off free and clear. That's a different type of position than making $20,000 off of a house and going to buy another house, making 20 off of a house and buying another house. No, I want you to keep your house, and I want to show you how being a landlord is not the devil. You know, people think, oh, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to do it. Well, you hire a property management company.
Yeah.
You're not trying to make $10,000 a month off of one house, but the tax write-off from owning that house and the equity that you're able to leverage if you ever want to get a business, you need to own something.
Yeah.
The SBA, before this pandemic, you could not borrow over $25,000 without having collateral. Well, where would you get the collateral if you don't own anything? The equity in your car that you're upside down in? The minute you drive off the lot? No. So ownership is the most critical, but it's also, we're going to have to get to a place that we have to understand that ownership means responsibility. You don't live in an apartment anymore. And that's the biggest challenge that we have, is nobody wants to be responsible for anything. So you want me to give you this house, right? I'm going to give you a loan. You only have to put 3.5% to 5% down. Before the pandemic, you could get into a house for 5%. They've gone back to 5% down. Right now, Chase will not loan money less than 20% down.
Right.
And at FHA, 20%. Yeah. So for those that didn't move, bust a move. As I told my clients, you better bust a move. When you got this approval, let's go.
Now's the time.
Now, guess what they can't do? Buy. So now you have to sign another 12-month lease that you're going to waste another $18,000 to $24,000 building someone else's equity. Right. I had a 55-year-old lady tell me, who had rented from me for 9 years. I gave her first right of refusal to purchase the house. Her mortgage was going to be $11 less than what she was paying in rent. Do you know what she told me? I don't want a mortgage for 30 years. I said, you've already been paying a mortgage for 30 years. Yeah. It was to somebody else's.
Right.
It was to somebody else's. So we have to know that with ownership comes responsibility, and we have to be willing to roll our sleeves up and make our community one that is sought after. And that's how you get people to not burn down things when they own them. You're not going to burn down your own neighborhood if you own it.
Yeah.
You don't care about burning something down if it's rented, because you can just go move somewhere else. But that's the challenge that we have right now. If more people owned, and this is what the majority and the privilege have done when they redlined areas and suppressed values, because exactly. That's what they did. You suppress values.
Suppress also education. You end up having now all of a sudden the kid that's one block down compared to the Caucasian kid on one block, the other black kid on the other, and now and he's in a classroom that's got lower wage teachers, beat up books, overpopulated, no extracurricular activities.
Right, everything. I mean, you can just look at New York City. Park Avenue changes, right? Park Avenue changes drastically in a matter of less than 3 miles. Completely different experience. So from an education standpoint, we can't get our money from funding just from property taxes. If you want it to be even in an equal playing field, and you want to get the best and the brightest, then give everybody a shot, because that's the only way you're going to know if you have the best and the brightest. I could remember when I was in middle school and I was testing for like advanced and AP classes and all of this stuff. And like at the end of the day, my grandmother had an 8th grade education. So this work was extremely intimidating for me. I'm like, wow. Oh my God. Like the projects that we had to do, it cost money to go get the material for the projects.
Yeah.
So I could have failed and not been able to take classes simply because I couldn't buy what was needed for the project. But again, I was a resourceful kid and I figured it out. And I made sure my teachers understood, well, we don't have money for this. So what can I do to make some extra money so I can go buy what I need to be able to do my science project, to be able to do my business project? You know what happened? By 11th grade, I'm vice president for the state for our marketing. It's called DEC. I don't know if you guys had it then, but I should have never even been in that class because I couldn't afford what it cost to be able to participate. But I didn't allow money, even as a kid, to keep me from that. So that being said, education specifically, change it there. But if the property tax dollars are there, that means that we own it. We pay the same amount of property taxes that the person does down the street, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but if that house is $1 million and mine is 300,000 or 200,000, that's a different number. So that's why it's different. So you have to get down to the root of the problem. So when you have politicians, they're like, oh, they have homes. They have 100 homes there. Yeah, they have 100 homes, but the property taxes are only $4,000 a year times 100 homes. We got what, $400,000. But we have 1,000 condos there. 1,000 times the $10,000 on the same amount of square footage. Completely different number, completely different budget.
Different resources now go to the community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's money. So if that's the case, then it should be every school, let's collectively, if this is the county, then divide the money up equally. Then you'll know if you're getting the best and the brightest. You know how many kids are now in prison right now that should be doctors and lawyers? Well, because they had one bad thing that happened in middle school and in high school, and it's not so cool to be smart. Like, it needs to become cool to be smart again in our community. We have to take ownership of that.
Yeah.
And that's an offline conversation that I'm not going to have here. I'll have it with them. But what I'm saying is, if the money is there, then we have no excuse. We have no excuse. The teachers don't have a problem showing up to work if they're being paid fairly.
Yes.
Yeah, you want me to deal with your child with ADD all day and you're not medicating them? And I've got 25 of them? How? These are human beings. They have a family too. They want to have, like, they want a quality of life. So if we want to do anything, if we want to change it quickly, my new word for everything is swiftly. Let's just do it swift. You know, you guys spend so much time thinking about it, and that's not changing it. Let's just make a quick decision, because typically in business for us, your first mind is always the best, right?
Yeah.
We'll work it out once we get there. But your first idea, you work it out, you flush it out, but you start with that, right? And then once you get in it, you're like, okay, we need to shift here. Do you know how long they've been teaching this new math in school? New math that their parents can't do. I have a degree in finance and a minor in mathematics. I could not do my nephew's third grade math with him when he was in third grade. I was like, what is this?
And you don't even use it in the real world.
And they don't use it in the real world, but they're making into a word problem. A politician and some people have spent money. They can't say that they were wrong. That's silly. In business, we don't get to operate like that, because that affects what? Our money. When we're wrong, we accept we were wrong. We made a mistake, bad judgment, spent too much money on this marketing program, spent too much money on this software. Doesn't work. Let's go back to the old one. Count it as a loss. We don't keep doing stuff for 10 years that's not working.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's not working. It's not working.
It's not working. It's as clear as that. It's not about right or wrong. It's just like, does it work or does it not work?
Yeah, we don't have time for that. That's why you need more people in business and office.
I
agree.
Like,
that's why you need business people, not people who have never run a business running budgets of 60, 70, 80 million dollars. You don't know what to do with it because you've never been responsible for it.
And that goes, like you said, and the most impact is not just at the highest level of the president, but just right now in our, in our cities, in our towns, right? So what would you say to everybody right now that has that opportunity to vote? Look for the candidates that have that business acumen.
And ask them the questions. Ask them the questions. The fastest way for me to get to the bottom of it is I'm going to ask them a series of questions about 3 different ways. And I know from the first time that we meet, when I leave that meeting, I'm like, they're not going to do it. I can present.
What are those 3 questions? Like, what do you focus on?
It's typically, what's your city plan? What is your master plan for this city? We had a project we were working on for about 4 months for a county that has a tremendous amount of money to spend, that had lost their accreditation, all of these things that had happened. But the county has a ton of money. They have all of these things that are being presented to them, and they turn everything down. And they're like, oh, we want this, we want that, we want this restaurant, that restaurant. And I said, oh, that's my next door neighbor. His family owns the restaurant, the Darden Group. So Red Lobsters, all of those restaurants, literally, he lives right behind me, the son. Mm. I said, how long have you guys been trying to get this meeting? Because literally we walk our dog together. I can just ask him. This is the ask. So quit going to the secretary who is shooting you down when you can just go to the source. But you're saying you want something, but you don't have the community to be able to support what you're asking for. So you want to build a Saks Fifth Avenue, right? But the average income is $37,000. Saks is never going to build here because they don't have the client base. So don't ask for things that can't be supported. You know, when you build a new neighborhood and you don't see a grocery store for a minute, there's a reason. They need a certain number of residents for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. And we need a certain number of residents and a certain level of income. So that determines the grocery store, because if we do know anything about anybody, the only thing they're really concerned about is the color green. We're the #1 consumer, African-American females. When we want something, we get it. And we demand that you put it here. And once we speak up like that, we can get what we want, but you can't have people that are in your way who don't know what they're doing. So my questions are always, what are you looking for? How do we get there? And then in the middle, where can we compromise? And I don't want to keep doing a bunch of meeting to meet. And that's what politicians do. They like to fill their calendar. They want to meet to meet. Why are we meeting about something that could have just easily been an email? It's easily been an email. So that's who they have sitting on city council right now, are people that have houses on the books that have been boarded up for 10 years in Atlanta. 10 years, neighborhoods when areas are just boarded up, when we could just go in and level them out and build new neighborhoods, and it would turn the school system around immediately. That's just not Atlanta. That's not just Atlanta, that's Newark. That's in any area that happens. This is sitting on their books right now. Do you think they promote it? Do you think they put it out there? No. But it's there. It's called the land bank. So every municipality has a land bank. You can go online and look it up, and it will tell you how much they're asking for it. But most people don't know about it. Yeah. And it's money that the city could have for tax revenue. So you think they do a better job, but they have someone in position that's just pushing paper all day. Pushing paper all day. So I say we charge everyone to do their job. So when I call somebody for something and they don't do it, I'm like a kid. I'll call and tell them. I'm like, so I reached out to such and such, and I've been waiting for something for 4 days, because in our business, it's like in real estate, you can change things very quickly, but we have to go through planning, permitting. Right. It doesn't take 90 days for you to give me a permit. And now something that's been held up in the city of Atlanta for 90 days now won't be built because now their funding is gone. So that's how serious this is on a local level. Yeah. On a local level. So that's why you put people in position who actually want to see change. They're just not there to punch a clock, do their 9 to 5 and get their pension. Yeah, no. Whatever you ran on, then I'm going to hold you to the carpet on that. We wanted a new stadium in Cobb County, where I live in Atlanta. We wanted a new stadium. Done. Highways, bridges, everything done. 18 months. 18 months it was done. Do you know how long it took to build the stadium, the dome, downtown Atlanta? And how many votes they had to have and how many meetings? There was no meeting. It was done. They let them have meetings. They let them have a few town hall meetings too. They said, we're taking it under advisement and consideration. It was built, done. We have an entirely new community now with restaurants, shops, hotels, all in less than about it's probably less than 7 acres of land. Wow. The tax base, tremendous. That land had been vacant for over 13 years. Yeah, right off the highway. Couldn't see it, trees. So we can change things on a local level quickly. And you don't have to run for president. You don't have to run for state senate. Just your local offices can change things much faster because you can move the needle right in your backyard. And we move the needle in our backyard, then why do you think they don't care what's going on in certain parts of the country? Because they're not burning down their city. Nobody's protesting anything because in their mind, their lives haven't been affected by any of this. Yeah. That's how it happens.
Wow. Maya, I'm curious if you have any principles that you live by. Like, what are some of the principles that have allowed you to be able to become successful in your own life and for you to be able to overcome the adversity that you've had to deal with throughout your life? So are there any certain values or principles, things that have helped you along the way that you can maybe share with us? And shout out to Lauren. Lauren's one of my clients, Lauren Messiah. I see you on here, girl.
Hey, Lauren. You know, for me, it's so basic, and you say it, it's kind of like, well, really? No, do right and right will come to you. That's it. Do unto others. I mean, it's biblical. If you do basic things in life, you don't have to be, you know, out there with, oh, I've got to be so deep. No, these are very basic things that you need to do in life. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do wrong to others intentionally. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye when I see wrong happening. That's why those other 3 officers have been arrested, because you saw something happening and you did nothing about it. Woo. You knew it was wrong. You knew it was wrong when it was happening.
Everyone has been in that situation. I think that's one of the most powerful things for us to acknowledge, right? It's like so many people in the world right now that have turned a blind eye.
Yeah.
You know, they feel like it doesn't impact them. And it's time that everyone comes together and acknowledges what is going on to our Black community with racism and where it is happening in your life or where you've seen it. Because I saw it growing up as a kid. You know, and there were times I turned a blind eye, you know, when I was in school and high school. And I've had to take that. It's hard it's hard to take, like at this point, I had to really be real with myself. And as a thought leader, to go out there and voice that, you know, it was, I knew how important it was. So like every single one of you, you know, it's important that you look yourself in the mirror and like, where have you seen this in your life, whether it's at your bank or your city council or your neighborhood or in your class, you know, where in your life are you seeing it now? You can start standing up for what's right in your life, regardless of how the backlash of people who may not understand you. You're willing to stand for something that you believe in regardless.
Right. Or don't sit in silence when you know something isn't right. And so for me, I don't care if you're white, Black, brown, or yellow. You know, my other business is hair. So who are my suppliers? They're Asians. And so this has been an extreme challenge. We've had very open conversations, and they know what this is. It hasn't impacted them this way because they assimilate to white culture, but they sell in Black culture. And so this has tapped them on the rear end in a way that they didn't even realize. And now when people are rebuilding, they're going to be more conscious about who they're shopping with. When they haven't supported Black-owned businesses because we didn't have the funding to be able to stock $1 million in inventory, they may just wait a couple of days online right now, because they know that if we don't get power and control over the way we spend our dollar, then nothing will be changed. But when you have relationships, when I talk to you or I talk to Josh, I talk to anybody that is non-Black, I'm going to speak in such a way that you still know that we're not having a surface relationship here. It's not going to be, oh, it's just convenient. We're out to dinner. We had a great time. You know, oh, everybody we rallied the troops. You guys go back and do great sales. No, I want you to know when something's happening, because you can bring about the change to someone that looks like you faster than I can, because you can speak to them openly and honestly and say, there's been times that I saw this happening and I just kind of kept walking because you didn't want to get involved. And as a teenager, as a kid, you don't know any better. You better not get involved if you saw, what is that, when they see us? Yeah, that kid who went to prison, he wasn't even supposed to be in there. None of them were, but he just went somewhere with a friend. So sometimes speaking up, there's a price that must be paid for that. But when you're in a situation that you're not in danger, so to speak, don't sit around and allow people to assume anything about another person that you know is not true. I feel the same way about the gay community. I was raised by a gay man. So when people say, oh, they shouldn't let gay people adopt kids, or, you know, all these ignorant things, I'm like, well, you do realize the person that was gay wasn't raised by somebody gay. That didn't make them gay.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's ignorance. They believe that.
Right.
Or the way they feel about transgender or whatever, when it's not them and they don't understand it, then they just say whatever somebody else has said. They're repeating other things that other people have said, and they have no experience with these people whatsoever.
Yes.
None. And that's the same way we feel as African Americans. We feel like you don't even know what you're talking about. So the same way that all whites aren't the same, I was raised in Panama City, Florida. Our nickname is the Redneck Riviera. Redneck does not mean racist, but if you're not from that area, you think that anybody talks like this, you think that they're going to lynch you up. No, they're not. These people have done more for me. They're married to my cousins. Like, you know, no.
Wow.
Just because a person looks a certain way doesn't mean anything. That has nothing to do with their heart. Nothing. It has nothing to do with them. If you're on the side of the road and you're broken down, they're going to help you. They're not going to keep driving by.
Yeah.
Because they're not afraid of you. They're there to help you. They believe in loving thy neighbor. So I think for us, we can't be in rooms together and have surface relationships. If you're going to have a black friend or a white friend, then your black and white friends need to know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
With no filter. And you
No
need
filter,
to have open.
We've lived that way for a
Yeah.
long time. These
Yeah.
filters.
Yeah, and we need to listen to what you all say as well, because I see it, and I see when I'm talking to people and they're like, well, you're just disconnected. No, I'm not. I live in reality. And I understand that walking around with a hoodie on my head at 90 degrees in the middle of the day in a parking lot is it is scary for someone who does not know you. So I suggest that you don't do that. Don't do that. Only because you want to be able to be treated fairly no matter what. So I don't go to the bank asking for $1 million loan with my sweatpants on, my Lululemon jogging suit. Like, no, I'm going there like I'm getting ready to do business. It's the same across the board. Should we not be judged based on what we look like? Yeah, but we're not. So let's quit living in fantasy land here. Yeah. So when you have the hard conversations with your sons, black people, and their daughters, we don't negotiate with the police on the side of the road. I always told my nephew, if you get pulled over, you're at 10 and 2. This is it. You ask for permission to do everything. Don't start asking them why they did this, did that. No. You know that if you get there, I'll sort it out. We'll sort it out downtown. My aunt will take care of it. I'll take care of it. And you don't need to give them any more information than your name, address, your driver's license. Put your hands behind your back. If you didn't do anything wrong, I'm going to get the dash cam footage and we'll get to the bottom of it. But I need you home to do that.
Yes.
If they tell you to stop, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You're not here to debate with them. We don't get the privilege that white kids do. Have you seen the videos going viral this week where they're arresting a white guy or a white lady and they're arresting this black guy and the white guy takes the baton and beats the woman up and drives off in their police car? Mm. Have you seen that one? It is. Oh. If you want to chuckle fest, watch that one. It's on Jamie Foxx's page and it's titled Privilege. It's hysterical. It's titled Privilege, but that happens every single day. If a black person didn't get the license fast enough, they would have been shot in the head. That's the world we live in. So I say, don't negotiate at all here. Let's get somewhere where you're going to be protected and insulated from violence. Because if you're trying to do this on the side of the road, you don't know what kind of day that person is having and what they have in their heart, and they have a gun and a badge that has protected them for a very long time. This man that was charged, he has a long history of brutality and things that he should have been fired for years ago. So there's a lot of investigations that need to happen so that we can change that system. Yeah. And my position on that, before we get off this police thing, we have 911, right? And how they have in the police department, they have internal affairs where they investigate other police officers. Yeah. There needs to be something that when someone is being harassed by the police, that is another number that you call. There's a whole police division that they are trained for oversight and someone who is not doing it in a way that is correct, because they're not supposed to tase you. They're not supposed to beat you. Like, there's ways that they can arrest you, even if you're being unruly, that won't take your life. And I think that needs to happen in the same way they have to start wearing video cams. As we see, that's not enough. No, you need a department that they are trained, that you guys aren't. Yeah, you guys aren't even on the same team, basically. Like, they police the police.
Like the FBI, another department. Right?
Yeah. Let's police the police. That's what we need.
Plus, their training needs to be updated. If you have to go through 6-7 years to become a lawyer to learn the law, and then 8 weeks to get a badge and a gun. Yeah, we have to look at that training as well. Yeah, and you see where their mental health is.
And I was going to say, and their psych eval. Like, when I was qualifying a young man yesterday for a loan, and he's a police officer, and his mom had reached out to me, and she said, well, he wants to live in this area, but they set his police car on fire yesterday. in a gated community. And I said, well, he can live anywhere now. I said, when he moves somewhere, he just needs to get a garage. I said, it's kind of, screw the police kind of mentality right now, but this will pass. I was like, but when he gave me his information for me to run his credit to see how little he made, I said, well, this answers everything. $37,000 to risk your life every single day on a routine traffic stop, you could be killed. I had no idea they made that little money. $37,000 to put your life on the line. No. So maybe you'd have better qualified individuals like if you paid them more.
Yeah.
I mean, a security guard at the mall gets paid about that much.
Yeah.
And they don't have a gun.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So, but they need proper psych evaluations for these people because, some of them just are terrible individuals. I mean, this goes back to the Klan. Half of them, were police.
Half of them are becoming police because they've had no power in any other area of their life.
So ever.
Yeah. Become a police officer so that they can
I get all the power.
Use that power, right?
Right. So it's a challenge we face, but we're going to get through this.
Tonight, Maya, what I'm doing, I'm going to be hosting a little private gathering, and I'm going to put everybody in different groups, and I'm going to break it into different systems, right? So whether it's police, incarceration, education, media, politics, like I'm going to have everybody broken into groups where we're going to work on solutions. How should we take action going forward in each one of these systems and rebuild? So, I think all of us have an opportunity right now to just not talk about it, but really truly be about it. And now's that time to take action. So I just want to see what is one last thing, Maya, before Instagram boots us off here. I think we're well over.
I know we've been chatting a while, right?
Yeah, it's the longest live I've ever done, actually. So
I talk a lot, so you have to reel me in.
It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to see you again and do more with you and speak with you on stage, hopefully again soon.
Yeah, we got to. I know. I think COVID's over now. I think.
Yeah, I know, right?
I said, is COVID over or is it just halftime? Because
yeah, exactly.
I didn't see any social distancing going on in these riots.
Right. Yeah. So, if there's anything else, is there anything else on your heart that you would like to say to those that are watching right now, and just to kind of leave us with a powerful message, during right now, what's everything that's happening in the world? Do you feel anything on your heart that you would like to share?
Yeah, and it's been a tough, when I say a tough week, I didn't sleep 2 nights, and I just had to go off social media because I couldn't see the images over and over and over and over again. And what I want people to understand is that we can't control others, but we can control ourselves and how we respond. And right now, it's time to pause and think before you react. We need a plan. We can't just be out here willy-nilly and expecting something to bring about change when yesterday in Pennsylvania, 180,000 Black people didn't vote. We did a blackout day, and that was a huge day to get people to the polls early. So on June 9th, next Tuesday, use your voice and vote. But not just vote, but right now, think about what it is you want for your life. And whatever you want for your life, know that you have the power to change that. I don't care what's going on around me. I have the power to change every single thing that happens because I'm in control of how I respond. And collectively, we can do more together than we can individually. So start asking the right questions and rally the troops. But let's do it smart. Let's just not put people in position. Let's put people in position who aren't going to just talk the talk and walk the walk. And if they do not, then you get them out of there because you put your money where your mouth is. You can't get elected without funding. So you need money. So if you want me to keep raising money and getting you in office, then you're going to have to do the things that are going to change this community swiftly. I live in an area in Atlanta, it's Cobb County. It's right on the outskirts of Atlanta. We're walking dogs and during COVID and nobody's affected at all. They're just a bunch of people working from home all day, but I don't see a bunch of work going on. Yeah, so a bunch of drinking, no working. But what's on my heart for everyone is to just know that this too shall pass. Nothing lasts forever, not even the best of things. So we will get through this, but I want us to get on the other side of this and have a memory of it because we have very short memories of actions and activities when they happen. And then we just go back to business as usual. I don't want to go back to business as usual. I want us to take responsibility for our lives. And I want the people who have been responsible for the things that they've done to be held accountable, every single one of them. Don't just let these guys be the fall guys. Everyone who has killed a Black person and they've been in uniform and they did something that was wrong, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And burning down our community is not going to make that change. Us holding people accountable and us being solutions driven is going to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Facts. Thank you so much, Maya, for your
Thank
time
you.
and for your soul and just sharing. That was so impactful. I'll be sharing this and I'll be in touch soon. Enjoy the rest of the day. And I will say a prayer for you and your family.
Please do.
All
Pray
right.
for our country. So I'm going
will.
to leave you guys. God bless
Love you.
America.
God bless. Yes.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you for taking some time to jump on live again. I thought that was really, really powerful to have Maya come and share her perspective. So we had Trent, Preston, and Maya. Today, I'm going to be doing a private gathering with a new dinner series I've created called Creating History. So if you're interested in learning more about that, it'll be in my new vlog that's going to be coming out. And you can email me at vip@leaderscreateleaders.com. All of these are going on my podcast. So if you haven't listened to the podcast yet, go to Leaders Create Leaders on Spotify or iTunes. Do me a favor. It'd mean a lot to me if you can leave me a review and just post it to your story where I can repost it. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I'm going to watch George Floyd's memorial and just continue to learn, guys. I mean, I loved what Maya said. You know, we're better doing this together, you know, and recognizing that like this too shall pass. But it's time for us to pause, to learn, to acknowledge, and to hold ourselves and those that have done wrong, especially these police officers that have taken Black lives, accountable. So it's about accountability. I appreciate you guys so much. I love you. God bless America. We will rise back from this. We need you to be leaders, right? So be a leader. How can you be a leader right now in your life? So I love you. God bless. Peace.